Have you ever picked up a mystery novel, really convinced you could outwit the detective this time, only to be, well, delightfully foiled at every single turn? Or maybe you've been so captivated by a character you start wondering, where did they come from? What real-life sparks ignited them?
Oh, absolutely. It's that wonderful feeling, isn't it? You know you're being skillfully manipulated, led down the garden path, but you just love every twist.
Exactly. That's the sign of a true master. And today we are doing a deep dive into the life and the really enduring legacy of Dame Agatha Mary Clarissa Christie.
The undisputed queen of crime.
Absolutely. I mean, we're talking about someone who wrote an astonishing 66 detective novels.
And 14 short story collections, plus the world's longest-running play, The Mousetrap.
It's incredible. And the sales figures, just mind-blowing.
Well, estimates put it at around 2 billion books sold. 2 billion. That makes her the best-selling fiction writer of all time.
Wow.
Only outsold by Shakespeare and the Bible, so
Yeah.
pretty good company.
That is a staggering company. So our mission today really is to unpack the layers of her remarkable life. We want to explore the personal experiences, the sometimes surprising influences that shaped her characters, her plots.
And even the kind of formula for modern mystery writing, you could argue.
Yeah. From her wartime work getting hands-on with poisons to her archaeological adventures, even that mysterious disappearance that hit headlines everywhere.
We're going to see how the events of her life sort of wove themselves into this rich tapestry for her fictional worlds.
And for this deep dive, we've pulled together, well, quite a stack of interesting sources.
Yeah, we've got academic analyses looking at her writing style, some really compelling biographies, even discussions from places like Reddit communities, and insights from historians like Lucy Worsley in documentaries.
Okay, so let's start at the beginning. Her formative years. Agatha Mary Clarissa Miller, born 1890, Torquay, Devon.
Right, into quite a wealthy upper-middle-class family. They lived in this handsome Victorian house called Ashfield.
And her childhood sounds, well, quite idyllic, actually, described as very happy.
Seems like it really fostered her imagination. She often played alone, apparently, with pets and imaginary friends, that kind of thing.
What's interesting, too, is her education, or lack of formal education, perhaps.
Yeah, she was largely homeschooled, learned to read really young, around 4, even though her mother thought she shouldn't learn till 8.
Huh. 4 years old?
This sort of informal approach, it seems it gave her the freedom to really dive into things she loved, literature, history, languages, without that rigid school structure, you know?
And she traveled, too, didn't she? Early on.
Yes, with her family.
Yeah.
To France, Paris, the Pyrenees, and later Cairo.
It's funny, one source mentioned she wasn't initially impressed by Egyptian relics, found them sort of unappreciative.
Yeah, funny how that changed later, dramatically.
Totally. And her actual writing started when she was ill.
That's right. About 18, she had influenza, was stuck in bed. Her mother, Clara, suggested writing short stories to, stop her being bored.
And she got a key piece of advice early on.
She did. From a family friend, an author named Eden Philpotts, he told her, never intrude yourself. Basically, keep the narrative voice clear, objective, let the story speak. Advice that clearly stuck.
Wow. Okay, so we have this imaginative young woman starting to write.
Mm-hmm.
Then World War I happens. How did that impact her?
Massively. She volunteered as a VAD nurse voluntary aid detachment, and later, crucially, worked in hospital dispensaries in Torquay.
Ah, the dispensaries. That's where the poison knowledge comes in.
Exactly. This gave her incredibly detailed first-hand knowledge of pharmaceuticals, drugs, and, poisons.
And this knowledge wasn't just theoretical, was it? It becomes a defining feature of her work.
Oh, absolutely. Over half her victims are poisoned. It was a game changer for her plots. She knew how to create these, peaceful deaths using real accessible things like arsenic, digitalis, strychnine.
So stuff people could actually get hold of, which makes it scarier, maybe.
Sort of, yeah. And she stuck to the rules of the genre, no made-up sci-fi toxins. But it wasn't just knowing them. It was how she used them, like hiding trinitrin, a heart medicine, in chocolates.
Clever, turning the method itself into part of the puzzle.
Precisely. It grounded her plots, made them feel plausible. Even when the setup was quite theatrical, it made the detective's job seem, more intellectually challenging.
So we see these early seeds: imagination, a knack for observation, this unique, if slightly grim, expertise in poisons. Then come the 1910s and 20s. things really start happening, both professionally and personally.
Right. She meets Archibald Christie Archie at a dance in 1912.
A whirlwind romance, apparently.
Seems so. They married on Christmas Eve, 1914, just as the war was really getting underway.
And it's during that war that her most famous creation appears.
Hercule Poirot. Yes, the inspiration came directly from her wartime experience in Torquay.
How so?
Well, Torquay took in thousands of Belgian refugees fleeing the invasion. And Agatha thought, what about a detective who was one of them? A former great Belgian policeman. Very intelligent. Very brainy was her phrase.
And that became The Mysterious Affair at Styles.
Her first novel. And guess how the victim dies?
Let me guess. Poison.
Poison, of course.
Yeah.
Directly using that knowledge from the dispensary.
Now, Poirot being Belgian,
Mm-hmm.
that was quite significant at the time, wasn't it? I saw some discussion about this, how it wasn't just a random choice.
No, not at all. The book came out in 1920, after 6 rejections, mind you. And Poirot is explicitly, unapologetically Belgian. He has the accent, slips into French.
Which, in post-WWI Britain, how's that viewed?
Well, Belgian refugees weren't always welcomed with open arms indefinitely. There was pressure to assimilate. Sometimes they were seen as an eyesore. So having Poirot be so distinctively Belgian and brilliant with it,
It pushed back a bit.
you could say that. It was perhaps a kind of quiet social progression, as one source put it. He celebrated his identity. His intellect wasn't Anglo-Saxon. It showed brilliance could come from, well, anywhere. A refugee, no less.
Fascinating. And her career took off after that.
It did. She introduced Tommy and Tuppence in The Secret Adversary in 1922. Really adventurous characters.
And she had her own adventures, too. That round-the-world trip.
Yes, with Archie in 22. A 10-month promotional tour for the British Empire exhibition.
And she learned to surf.
Standing up.
In Hawaii.
Yeah.
One of the first European women to do it. She called it one of the most perfect physical pleasures.
Mm-hmm.
She has a real adventurous streak.
Definitely. But this period of success and adventure, it also contained a major crisis for her.
Yes, the breakdown of her marriage. It was a very difficult time. Her mother died in early 1926, which hit her hard.
Mm-hmm.
Then Archie asked for a divorce.
He was having an affair.
Yes, with a woman named Nancy Neal. And then in December 1926, Agatha disappeared.
This is the famous 11-day disappearance, her car found abandoned. Exactly. Huge news, international headlines, a massive police search.
Where was she found?
Eventually, at the Swan Hydropathic Hotel in Harrogate, checked in under the name Teresa Neal.
Neal, her husband's mistress's surname. That's chilling, almost like something she'd write.
It really is. The speculation at the time was wild publicity stunt, nervous breakdown, revenge plot.
But historians like Lucy Worsley, they emphasize the sheer trauma she was under.
Absolutely. The grief for her mother, the betrayal by Archie. It's now widely believed she was likely in a dissociative fugue state, a temporary loss of memory, of identity triggered by extreme stress.
So not a stunt, a genuine crisis.
Almost certainly. It made her incredibly private afterwards, understandably. But interestingly, that trauma, that vulnerability, some argue it actually deepened her writing.
How so?
It perhaps allowed her to explore more complex emotional truth, especially in the novel she wrote later under the name Mary Westmacott. They dealt much more directly with psychology and relationships than the detective fiction. So even that dark period became, in a way, fuel for her creativity.
Incredible resilience. Okay, so after this storm comes a new beginning in the 30s and 40s. She travels again.
Yes. In 1928, inspired by friends, she takes a solo trip on the Orient Express. Destination: Baghdad.
The Orient Express.
The very one. And in Iraq, at the archaeological site of she meets the famous archaeologist Leonard Woolley, and his wife Catherine becomes friends with them.
And this leads to?
She goes back to in 1930, and this time she meets a young archaeologist working there, Max Mallowan. He was 25.
And she was nearly 40.
She was, but they clicked. They married that same year.
Wow. And this marriage really opened up a whole new world for her, didn't it?
Completely. For months, every year, she'd join Max on his digs in Iraq and Syria. A whole different life.
What did she do on the digs? Did she just write?
She wrote in the mornings, yes. But in the afternoons, she actually helped out on site. She learned about photography for cataloging finds, and famously...
The face cream. I read about this.
Yes. She apparently developed a technique for cleaning very fragile ancient ivories using her own face cream. And it worked. Archaeologists actually acknowledged it as a useful contribution.
That is just brilliant.
Yeah.
Resourceful. And wasn't she also supporting the digs financially?
Yeah.
quietly.
She was. Even paying Max's salary at one point, apparently. But she kept that very private. Shows her independence, I think.
Absolutely. And all this Middle Eastern experience, it flows directly into her books.
Profoundly. You get these incredibly vivid, authentic settings for classics like Murder on the Orient Express, Death on the Nile, Murder in Mesopotamia, Appointment with Death. She wasn't just imagining these places. She knew them.
And around the same busy time, 1930, another iconic detective arrives.
Miss Jane Marple in Murder at the Vicarage.
Inspired by her grandmother, her step-grandmother.
Step-grandmother and her friends, yes. A sort of composite of elderly ladies she knew deceptively sharp behind a fluffy exterior.
And she kept Marple and Poirot separate.
Deliberately. Agatha apparently said Poirot, being a complete egoist, wouldn't appreciate being shown up by an elderly spinster, so they never met in her stories.
Smart move. She was incredibly productive then, wasn't she?
Amazingly so. Often 2 or 3 books a year through the 30s and 40s. And she started writing plays, too, because she wasn't happy with how others adapted her novels.
Black Coffee was her first original play.
In 1930, yeah. And she even put her love for dogs in there. Dumb Witness features a terrier who's a key, well, witness.
So we've seen how her life fed her work. But let's talk about the craft itself, that art of the whodunit. What made her so good at it?
Well, she mastered the formula. Meticulous plotting, loads of red herrings, those brilliant twists. But her aim wasn't necessarily for you, the reader, to solve it before the reveal.
No. What was it then?
It was more about bringing you almost there. So when the solution is revealed, it feels logical, maybe even obvious in hindsight. You think, I nearly had it.
Which makes you want to read the next one, to try again.
Exactly. Reader satisfaction, but with that little hook to keep you coming back.
And the culprit. Often the least likely person. P.D. James noted that.
Yes, that became a bit of a Christie trope. She even poked fun at it herself in the foreword to Cards on the Table, basically telling readers, don't expect the usual unlikely suspect this time. Shows her awareness of her own patterns.
What about her writing process? How did she actually build these intricate plots?
Apparently, she started with the characters first, created the cast, chose the setting, then she'd map out the scenes, figuring out where clues would drop. She also said a lot of the dialogue happened in her head before she wrote it down.
A very internal process. And we talked about poisons. Her accuracy was key.
Remarkable accuracy, drawing on that dispensary work. She favored those peaceful poisons, as we said. Real toxins, realistically used.
Any specific examples that really show off her knowledge?
Oh, loads. In the chocolate box, using trinitrin hidden in sweets. The Case of the Caretaker uses strophanthin, a cardiac glycoside from arrow poisons, administered by injection for a quick death that looks natural. Wow.
Even in Death in the Clouds, she uses boom-slang venom, describing its slow, visible effects like bleeding under the skin quite accurately, although she maybe fudged the speed of identification for plot reasons.
So mostly accurate, with occasional tweaks for the story.
Exactly. She even used things like chloral hydrate knockout drops or Mickey Fins in some of her spy thrillers like Passenger to Frankfurt. She knew her stuff, scientifically and, well, criminally.
And it wasn't just chemistry, was it? The psychology was crucial. Poirot's little gray cells.
Absolutely central. Understanding human nature, motivation, deception, that's how the crimes were often solved, as much as by finding physical clues.
Yeah.
Why people do what they do, that's timeless.
Which brings us to her lasting legacy. She received official recognition, didn't she?
Yes, she was made a Dame Commander of the Order of the British Empire, a DBE, by the Queen in 1971. A huge honor.
And The Mousetrap. Still running.
Still running.
Yeah.
Opened in 1952, the longest-running play in the world. A phenomenon.
Then, in 1975, Poirot's final curtain call. Curtain. Poirot's last case. Published just before her own death, though written decades earlier. And his death was such a big deal.
The New York Times ran his obituary on the front page.
Can you imagine? For a fictional character, shows his cultural weight.
Her last public outing was related to Poirot, too, wasn't it?
Yes, the premiere of the 1974 film Murder on the Orient Express, the one with Albert Finney as Poirot.
What did she think of it?
She thought it was a good adaptation overall. Her one criticism, Poirot's mustaches weren't luxurious enough.
Huh. Always the details. Of course, there have been many other Poirots since. Ustinov, Brenna.
Yes, Brenna's recent films are visually spectacular, though some feel his Poirot is maybe a bit more action hero than the meticulous thinker of the books.
Whereas David Suchet's TV portrayal is often seen as
definitive for many people, really capturing that essence, Poirot.
And her work just keeps getting adapted, doesn't it? TV, radio, games.
Video games, graphic novels, you name it. Her characters are on stamps, coins. There's a statue of her in Wallingford now. Her influence is just everywhere.
That Christie formula, tight plot, memorable characters, the puzzle, it clearly still works, still inspires writers, game designers.
Absolutely. She laid down a blueprint. Agatha Christie died peacefully in January 1976. Her final novel, Sleeping Murder, a Marple one, and her autobiography came out after her death.
And her family, through Agatha Christie Limited, they actively manage her legacy.
They do, ensuring the stories continue to reach new generations.
So looking back on our deep dive today, we've journeyed through this really incredible life, from that imaginative child in Torquay through war work, personal trauma, archaeological adventures.
And seeing how all those threads, all those experiences were subtly woven into the fabric of these fictional masterpieces that millions still adore.
Her popularity endures, doesn't it? Why do you think that is, ultimately?
I think it's that unique combination, the intricate puzzles that genuinely engage your brain, that challenge you, but also the characters. Even in these dramatic, sometimes outlandish situations, there's something deeply relatable about their psychology, their flaws, their motivations.
She wasn't just telling stories. She was like an architect of suspense.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Inviting us into this game where the challenge itself is part of the fun, just as much as finding out who'd done it.
So a final thought for you, our listener. What does all this mean for you? Maybe next time you're facing a tricky challenge. Could be a complex problem at work, could be a difficult personal decision. Think about those little gray cells.
Yeah, how might that meticulous, observant approach help? Or maybe, could an unexpected, seemingly unrelated bit of your own life experience actually hold the key to a surprisingly elegant solution?
Just like Agatha Christie found the seeds of her greatest mysteries, perhaps, in the most unexpected corners of her own extraordinary life.